Today, we're going to make a knife out of some climbing gear. I think this is going to be very cool. I hope you guys enjoy this. So this is a little bit different than what we usually do on the channel. This is my friend Jayden. He goes by the Slacksmith on Instagram. Tell us a little bit about the art that you do.
So my name's Jayden, and I'm a blacksmith, more specifically a bladesmith. I'm mostly specializing in chef's knives and Damascus steel, but I love doing the kind of weird stuff with history and anything involved with climbing too. So we're gonna take one of these pitons that Bobby kindly provided me with, and I'm gonna take a piece of high carbon steel. These pitons, from what I can tell, are mild steel, so you take a high carbon steel and we're gonna forge weld it on to act as the blade, and then we'll forge out the blade and we're gonna make a nice chef's knife.
I've been collecting these, and I sometimes make bolt removal tools out of them. You put a little groove into it and it acts like the back of a hammer to wedge certain bolts out. These all went through my house fire when all my gear burned, and I thought this was a very cool use for them.
Reborn in fire. The way that I attach this high carbon blade steel to the piton is through what I call a jump plate. So I'm going to take this other piece of high carbon steel. The one I'm using for the blade is 1095, which is just 0.95% carbon. And the one I'm going to use for the jump plates, which you can kind of think is a sandwich. So the piton and the blade steel will be running through the middle, and these jump plates will be on the outside to add material and add support. And so I'm going to use 15N20 for that, which is a nickel steel, so it's a little bit stain resistant. And all I'm going to do is cut out a couple little squares for these jump plates and clean them up. And then I'm going to clean up the piton and the blade steel, because when you're forge welding things, we're combining two dissimilar pieces of steel, and we're literally atomically covalently bonding them. And we want them to be very clean, because steel forms an oxide layer in oxygen, and so if you have any oxide on there, it won't bond to itself. So I put a radius on these little jump plates along both edges, and the reason for that is you want the material to flow into the parent material. You don't want to have sharp edges, because if you do, when you go to pound it down, it'll shear. It creates a little valley right where that sharp edge is. And another thing I did that's kind of interesting, you can see I've got this angle ground on the front of the piton, and I also have the angle ground on the front of the blade steel, and they're opposing supplementary angles. So what will happen is when I put these two together, and it might be tough to see on camera there, but they match up and they give a nice little surface right there to meet each other. So we're gonna weld these things together. I'm gonna run a MIG weld all the way around the outside of this so that the oxygen can't get in and develop oxide as we're heating it. And we're going to throw it in the forge and weld it together. The next thing is going to be forging the actual knife. And then I'm gonna flip it around and I'll kind of put that cut shape into the handle to make it feel good on the hand. A little harder? Good. Yep. 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 A little harder? A little harder? Yep. See, it's got that.
Yeah.
To it now. I'm just gonna twist it to my liking. Yeah, that looks pretty good actually. Accurate finger measurement. Perfect. Your finger is 23 millimeters. There we go, yeah. All right, cool, that should give you plenty of room. I've finished the forging of the knife, and I'm working on the heat treating. So any piece of steel you could put a sharp edge on, but if you are not doing a full heat treatment on a high carbon piece of steel, it's not gonna hold up good. And we want this edge to last for a lifetime. So the way we're accomplishing that is running it through a series of processes. The first is called normalization. So what I'm doing is I'm raising it up to right above about 1500 degrees in the forge, right when it goes non-magnetic. and then I'm letting it cool down slowly in the air, and that kind of just gives all the grains a chance to relax, lets everything calm down a little bit, takes all the stresses of forging away. And then after I do that 3 times, I'm gonna heat it up one more time, and I'm gonna dunk it into oil, and I'm gonna swish it around and let the oil cool it off, and that rapid cooling freezes the carbon molecules in place, and it makes the steel hard and tough. But after you've quenched it, it gets a little too hard, and it ends up brittle too. So what I'm gonna do after I quench it is I'm gonna temper it too, where I'm gonna heat it up to a lower temperature, which is going to relax it just a little bit, so it'll still retain all the hardness that we want for a good edge, but it won't be so brittle that if you drop it, it shatters like glass. So we got the knife heat treated, we got it tempered, turned out nice straw color right along the whole edge there, so we know it's going to be not too brittle, but not too soft either. And the hole fits Bobby's fingers, so we're gonna take it to the grinder now and do our last steps. First thing I'm gonna do is profile it. So I'm gonna take the 2-dimensional shape, what it would look like when you cast a shadow with it. And I'm gonna bring it in, just bring the tip in. I purposely left it kind of wide up here so I didn't have to forge it as close. And I'm gonna clean everything up, straighten it out. I'm gonna do a little work on the handle and stuff too. And then I'm gonna put some bevels on here. And I love this beautiful forge scale. I think it's got such a nice look to it. So I'm gonna leave some of this forge scale on the top here and really try and go for like a dark industrial vibe. We'll see what happens. There's no gap on top. If this weld hadn't worked, there'd be a little bit of a space and you'd see it, but we know that it worked because it's all one solid piece down the whole spine. I've got all the rough grinding done on this knife. It turned out incredibly cool. I got the handle all how I want it to be. The blade is just paper thin. It's gonna do really good for fruits and vegetables and meat and really anything you could possibly cook with. And so the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply a chemical treatment to this to turn it a little bit of a black color. So I'm gonna heat this up and I'm gonna apply a little bit of axe wax, which is designed for wood, but you can put it on metal too. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna soak in, especially because I heat it up, it's gonna turn liquid right before kind of hardening up again. And this is not stainless steel, so it will rust if you let it. So we wanna put something that's gonna fill up all the pores, keep any sort of moisture off the surface of the steel, stop it from rusting.
New kitchen knife. Thank you so much,
Hell yeah,
Jayden. As you can tell, Jayden kind of knows what he's talking about. He is working on his journeyman project for the American Bladesmithing Society. He also won a little bit of money from a TV show called Forged in Fire.
Cool show.
Pretty cool.
These knives and others like it can be found on my website for sale, theslacksmith.com. It's like blacksmith with an S. Also Instagram and YouTube, The Slacksmith. It's where you can find all of my work. But yeah, I do sell a lot of my knives, and I also teach classes if you're in the Colorado area. Come on by.
If you see something of his that you like, these sell pretty much instantly, right?
They go quick.
Piton knives and pretty much everything you make, right?
Yeah.
So very cool. Thank you, Jayden.
Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for watching.
Yeah, thanks everyone. All right, Bobby Slacksmith collaboration. Show them how it is.
This is a collaboration between Jayden's skill and Jayden's teaching skill.
Nice. Dude, so good. Well, get that click. Put it back in. Well done.
Super excited.